Hi, Judith and I want to talk with you for just a few moments about some reflections we've been having on the natural events that have transpired with the earthquake and tsunami in Japan.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to just say that our hearts and souls go out to the people of Japan. We have compassion for their suffering, and we're also concerned about the land and concerned about all of the beings that were affected by the tsunami and by the earthquake, and we want to send compassion, love, and healing in that direction, and also want to have some reflections on some other aspects of what we've learned from this.
We've been looking to see if we can find the wisdom, the earth wisdom, and the primordial intelligence at work here. And underneath, we've been able to see balancing, purification, and new birth. And it brought into our conversation the Mount St. Helens event. We owned acreage not too far from Mount St. Helens, and it got covered in ash, and there was an economic hit and loss of life. And at the time, I remember the scientists were saying that this was totally devastating the ecosystem. And of course, it blew off the top of the mountain. And what we found out in this, by widening the angle of our lens and seeing the bigger story in the years that have followed, is that nature, the sacred primordial intelligence, has brought forth a whole new ecosystem. And so having had that experience and seen the beauty of that place for humans and non-humans, we've been looking through a wider lens at this event.
I think it provides an opportunity for all of us to go inside and really look at who we are connected to the earth, who we are connected to the sky, who we are connected to the land, to the water, to the fire, all of these elements that are so basic to life, and also involved in this happening in Japan with the sea, the water from the sea, the land, the fire from the reactors, and the pollution in the sky, possible radiation. What do we think about that when we think about earth, air, fire, and water? It gives us an opportunity to go deeper into our relationship with those elements, and rather than seeing it in a negative sense or demonizing it, to see how we are in relationship with our bodies, our minds, our spirits, and our emotions.
Yeah, and challenging us both in this particular natural event and others is that we tend to look with a very narrow lens at what is happening. And for example, as I was doing some research about tsunami, I found that there is a form of balancing and nourishment that a tsunami brings to a given ecosystem that is not brought in any other way. For example, this tsunami moved in for 6 miles, I believe it was, and the science is that there's a nutrition that comes to the ecosystem in that particular way that doesn't happen any other manner. And it reminded me a little bit of forest fires and how devastating that looks at first. I think it's heat that's needed in the forest floor in order for certain seeds to burst forth.
I think a lot of it has to do with our need to be in control of things, and I think left to her own devices, the earth brings herself back into balance in whatever way she needs to, not to be too anthropomorphic about the earth, but I think it's pretty clear that there's a sense that the earth has maintained a balance for quite a few billion years.
Yeah, and you used a word there I think that's crucial in understanding these natural events, and that is control. Because the primordial mind at work, and by that we mean the underlying intelligence of the earth and the cosmos. When these primordial forces are unleashed, we have to really think, if we have a working hypothesis, that there is an intelligence here. Mm-hmm. And if there is, it challenges our usual personality patterns, our control measures. Because believe me, we're not in control. Like as we look around here, this is a beautiful place, but here in the hill country of Texas, we're in the midst of a drought. And so we would have a tendency to say to the larger intelligence, bring us rain. But if we do that, we are sort of assuming we know what needs to be done here. And the truth is, we don't know. That there's a larger pattern here that we have to say in the form of a prayer, the way you and I pray. It would be, we want to be in harmony with water and moisture, and we want to be in harmony with the environment. We don't want to say to you what needs to be done, but use us in whatever way that we can be used. And just as I glance out of the corner of my eyes, I see a flock of male turkeys who have come up while we're talking here. And so this sense of not being able to control the environment is very important for those of us who are humans to grasp, because the raw elements of nature challenge our control. And as our control is challenged, then our usual personality habits are brought into a sense of humility, that we really are not what this is all about. We are an aspect of the earth. We are the earth thinking about herself, reflecting on these kinds of conditions, but we are not the major thing going on here. It's the earth herself unfolding and evolving that we have to get with. And if we don't get with it, then we're going to suffer greatly.
Yeah, I like that, and it just reminds me that we are a community. We're a community with the earth, but we're a community with other human beings too. So we have a lot of choices about how we face something like this. And one of the things that comes to my mind is the sense that we can be a community together, looking at how we can live more harmoniously with the earth, looking at the ecological needs that we have but that the earth has. The spirit of the Japanese people of being calm in the face of this kind of a devastating event, and there's no looting. It's really interesting that there was no looting going on, even though there's certainly the possibility for that. And this sense of going with it, you know, and almost not necessarily acquiescing, but this sense of accepting and this strong spirit of community that you could feel from just the little bit we could see on television.
Well, if we took Katrina and we took Sri Lanka and we took the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico and we took this situation in Japan and we link them together, this holds the possibility of our being initiated into a whole new understanding of the role of humans with the planet. There is that possibility. There's the possibility of new birth. I think, though, if we don't get it, then we're going to continue to suffer more and more as a human species. We have the option in this kind of natural event for us to grow bigger, for us to have a larger wisdom, for us to have a larger sense of ourselves. And what is that identity? It's that we are a tiny aspect of the earth. We are the earth. You and I are the earth, being aware and reflecting on the meaning of these events.
Right.
One other thing before we close, I wanted to note that 7 years ago, thereabouts, there was an earthquake, a 9.0, and a tsunami, and the tsunami hit in Sri Lanka. And that was a tragedy. 230,000 people died. And yeah, there was a lot of suffering. And yet, there's been a resurrection or a rebirthing of the people from Sri Lanka. And they have invited us as Wisdom University to cooperate with them in the rebuilding of their sense of themselves. And at this very moment, the president of Wisdom University, Jim Garrison, is over there in conversation with them about how we, as a Wisdom University, might assist them in the continuing recovery from that tsunami. And I'm very grateful for that, because the people who are experts in recovery say it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years out that the people really need assistance.
Right.
That there's a flood of help for a month or 2 or 3, but the attention of our culture tends to wander.
Yeah, interesting synchronicity, and I believe that maybe there'll be many more synchronicities that arise from this event and other events.
Right, and as we close, a turkey vulture sailed over our heads, and in our tribal tradition, the turkey vulture is known as the peace eagle. Very much a valued creature, even as the vultures were at Göbekli Tepe some 13,000 years ago. And they carry the message of cleaning up messes. And perhaps that's one of the major messages here, that we humans have an opportunity to clean up a lot of our mess, to clean up our act, and get in harmony and movement with the larger forces of the primordial mind.
So love, peace, and harmony.
Let's do it.